to this evening session. So a couple of important information before we start. If you're connected, please put your computer or phone on mute. And we are here for you this evening to discuss our careers. And we really hope this session is going to be meaningful for those online and also for those that will be listening to it in the future. I strongly invite you to ask questions through the chat box that we can answer throughout the session or during the dedicated time at the end. We want for you to get out of this and ask as many questions as you want, so don't be shy. I'm going to start by introducing myself and the rest of the panelists that will be with us for the next hour. I think we have all very relevant experience for this topic, and we all come from slightly different avenues. So hopefully you will hear something inspiring. So I'm going to start with myself. I have the pleasure of chairing this panel, and I think I am quite well placed, being the head of marketing for AXA Investment Managers Olds. I've been working for about 15 years, started my career in private banking and then moved into asset management with a strong focus on the alternative space over the last 6 years. And I think we will be discussing what we do in our day-to-day job, how we got here, what keeps us inspired. So plenty of things to talk about. So I'm going to now, going in alpha order, pass the mic to Alex, who is in the box next to me. And after Alex, we can go to Kelly and Seb. So Alex, over to you. Tell us about you.
Thank you, Alessandra. Thank you, Alessandra, and pleasure to be here. So my name is Alex Fay, and I work for Santander Asset Management as a product development manager. And my role mainly is quite strategic. It's about looking at markets, looking at customer trends, and seeing where we can find growth opportunities, and mainly in investments. An example of that, for instance, in the past 4 years is in the sustainability trend that we've seen. And we've seen a lot of competitors as well launching new sustainable funds. So my role is about understanding that trend and talking to the right people within the company to actually create the funds so that people can invest in them, and also making sure that all the funds that we have available are in line with the regulatory environment. So we're seeing a lot of new rules coming from Europe and the UK when it comes to compliance, and just making sure that we can adapt to those changes. And I'll pass the mic to you, Seb, if you want to explain what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you, Alex, and good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Seb Stewart. I work for a boutique asset management business called Somerset Capital Management. We specialize in emerging markets. My role within the business is really twofold. The first is attracting new clients and assets to the business, so in a sort of distribution and sales capacity. And the second part of my role is managing the relationships of our existing clients to ensure that our clients remain happy, they don't redeem their assets, and with any luck, they allocate additional assets to Somerset over time. My coverage in terms of geography initially was North America, but over time it has really expanded to cover the whole world. So I look after clients in North America, UK, Europe, and Asia, which is fun and exciting. In addition to my role at Somerset, I also am the chairperson of an asset management think tank called the Independent Investment Management Initiative, and we represent about 43 boutique asset managers in the UK, continental Europe, and Asia in promoting the strengths of specialist asset management businesses in trying to create a fairer regulatory environment that supports asset managers, and also promoting commercial opportunities for smaller asset managers. So Kelly, I'll pass it over to you.
Hi everyone, it's really wonderful to be able to speak to you guys today. My role is very similar to Seb's in many ways. I work for a quantitative hedge fund. I started off in investment banking and sort of being on a trading floor a very, very long time ago, and moved into hedge funds back in 2003, where, you know, it was a word that no one really knew what it meant. I mean, if you put it into Yahoo, because there was no Google at the time, nothing really came up. So a bunch of us left the investment banks and sort of started branching off into prop shops and hedge funds. And I ended up at Bayforest Technologies, which is where I am today. I've only been here for 2 years. Before, I was with a Japanese long short hedge fund that spun out of Deutsche Bank, and that's quite a common thing. You find that hedge funds tend to, well, many tend to be spin-offs out of bigger brands. What I do for Bayforest, I cover their IR function, which is investor relations. For many firms and institutions, that means a variety of things. Sometimes it means just managing the client relationships already onboarded. For some, it means covering sales, marketing, literally all of it. For Bayforest, I'm covering all of it. So we are not brand new, but we're not very old. We fit under an emerging manager, what's called an emerging manager. We were incepted in 2017, so 5 or 6 years old, but at the same time, still quite new in terms of building the brand and sort of speaking to large investors. My role is specifically geared towards education, awareness, managing and sourcing new client relationships and managing the current ones that we have onboarded in the last few years. So quite a broad role, but the coverage when you're with a smaller firm, you know, Seb's been specific about his geographical coverage. Mine is, it sounds weird to say, but you're covering the world. So you're covering the Americas, where the bunch of the majority of quant investors are, but also raising awareness across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, basically anywhere that, you know, there's a willingness to look at quant funds and sort of get interested in that particular strategy.
Wow. So everybody's got a very, very interesting, challenging and full-on jobs, probably more than one at the same time as well. So what I was thinking would be also relevant for our audience is to take a step back and tell us a little bit about how you got there, also covering your education path. If I can think about also my experience and my perspective, it's also the fact that this is an industry where you can operate without having a degree in maths or economics. A lot of people, especially on the continent, still don't think like that. And I think it would be very interesting to hear from your side, what did you study? What also were you thinking about doing when you were a student and you were approaching your first internship, analyst program or work experience? So maybe this time we can start with Seb. Do you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, no, happy to. So my interest in financial services is has originated quite a long time ago. And I have family members who worked within the industry, and so got exposure through that route. And I started doing pieces of work experience wherever there was an opportunity to do so, sort of throughout my holidays, initially actually at school, so from the age of about 16. And then it sort of ramped up when I was at university, when there were sort of more formal internship schemes that were available by investment banks and other organizations. What I would say is that financial services is obviously a very broad industry. And although I did a number of pieces of work experience across the whole sort of spectrum of financial services, really the goal was to identify what area of the industry resonated with me, if any at all. And I was lucky that actually it was something that really interested me. I managed to whittle down the things that were particularly exciting for me, ultimately to focus on fund management and more on the specialist end of fund management. In terms of how I did that, I mean, I think that the main things that I leveraged was just networking generally, and I would say that on the more boutique end of the industry, it is very network driven, which is an advantage to some people and a disadvantage to others. But I think you've got to be resourceful and use what there is to your advantage. The other thing which was particularly helpful for me is just being very open-minded about opportunities and really taking up anything that was presented to me, and either ruling that out or pursuing that further if it was something that interested me. In terms of my degree, I studied maths and business studies at the University of Edinburgh, and there was no sort of particular reason why I did that in order to help me get a job. And as Alessandra says, there's basically no link whatsoever nowadays in terms of what degree you pursue and the sort of job opportunities that are available to you. For instance, in my firm, I don't think anybody on our investment team studied maths or economics. Everybody studied classics or English or languages or other languages or other subjects like that. So there's no link. It was just something that I had a proclivity to, that I enjoyed and I wanted to pursue. And it just happens that numeracy is a beneficial skill, although certainly not a prerequisite in my industry.
Thank you, Seb. So, Alex, do you want to continue?
Yeah, I think I'm at the other spectrum compared to Seb, because I wasn't destined for finance at all. I was gonna work in hotels. I was gonna manage hotels. That's what I was trying to do when I went to uni. So I was learning about management and languages, and then did a break year where I went to actually work in the hotel business, and then realized that I liked the luxury of it, but I didn't really like the products themselves, i.e. I was doing marketing mainly. That's what I wanted to do. And then number one, it was very difficult to differentiate yourself from the rest when you do marketing for hotels and those kinds of products. And I just wanted a challenge. So a friend of mine was working in private banking at the time, and she was leaving her internship. So when she did, she asked me whether I wanted to apply, and I had never done anything like that before. So I was like, you know what, why not? It's an opportunity. I'll learn something else and we'll see if it sticks. And it worked. I loved it. I really enjoyed understanding about markets and investments. And I realized how important the industry is, and financial services in general, to the wider community and to the public, because we engage with, personal finance on a daily basis, but most people don't know. And when you start working in finance, you can see the potential of it. You want everyone to actually understand and kind of join into it. So I'm a big advocate of, talking to people about their finances and how to invest and how to make sure that, you save for the rainy days, but you also invest your money and get out of cash. And that's what I get from what I get to do with my role now. So an accident, but a really good accident. And as Seb said, it was all about opportunities. And I think that's why networking is so important in this industry, because, I didn't know about the industry, and then that friend told me about it. And then just, once I started, I was like, yeah, everyone should know about it, and not be afraid to actually try.
Everything that you said, I think will resonate with a lot of people, and it's interesting, like the key point that Seb mentioned, networking, but also very much taking a chance, taking a leap and try. Like, you have nothing to lose. The only thing that you can gain is more financial knowledge. That it's a very important tool as part of your skill set to have, no matter what you decide to do with your life. So Kelly, over to you. And I also take this opportunity, maybe we can go back to one point that you mentioned before, working in a quantitative hedge fund, because I think it's a pretty niche part of the market, and
Yes.
a lot of people might not be familiar. So if we can kind of kill two birds with a stone, so you tell us about your educational background and also spend a few minutes diving into this part of the alternative sector, that would be great.
Absolutely. I'm somewhere between Alex and Seb in terms of background and experience. I did not set out to sort of join this path. I think this path sort of found me in some ways. I studied business management, and I thought if I chose something as broad as that, I could probably fit into any category of business or finance or management that at the time, you know, would present an opportunity to do so. I actually, I went into investment banking at the time because I read this article on Merrill Lynch way back when, and I went to a headhunter and said, I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to work for this firm. He said to me, it doesn't really work like that. But I was quite insistent, and I managed to get an interview with the bank. The interview process was quite horrific. I'd never been prepared for anything like that in my life, but where I ended up at the time was starting on a trading floor. It was the European cash equities desk at Merrill Lynch, and it was such a fantastic place to be back in '95. You know, the market was amazing. It was a learning experience. I learned everything. One of the things that I sort of learned on my own as well was there was such a structure, it's such a community. You literally have to sort of take a step back and work out where does it start and where does it end. Follow the money, basically, to sort of work out how it all works. That I stayed there for quite some time. And then I moved to, like I said, hedge funds was not really something that many people knew about back in like the early 2000s. It was well, not me anyway. It was something that was just like starting to being like in conversations, and a bunch of us left the prop trading team and moved out into what was called prop trading desk or smaller hedge funds at the time. And one of the roles that my boss at the time mentioned to me was getting into business development and marketing, which is very different to what I was doing. And he said, you know, you're great at connecting people, putting all the right people in touch with each other. It's a networking environment. I think you'll thrive in this type of business. And I joined a very small Italian fund of fun at the time. And it was, to be honest, I actually grew up with so many people in the industry at the same time. A lot of the people who are running, in management positions now are the people that joined essentially around the same time as I did. So we've all sort of kept in touch. We had these networking events before they were networking events. We would meet up and sort of dissect how the month went. Where did you struggle? Where did you shine? What should you do? How do you think about this? And I think we sort of built like a small industry within an industry. And yeah, I just sort of went on to a more institutional setup with Deutsche Bank. I spent a very long time there. And then I spun out with one of the managers. So my background is very much mixed with institutional and, more sort of smaller type businesses. So it's great to sort of be with the institutions because you get the structure, you see how everything comes into play. But with a smaller firm, you're rolling your hands up and doing all the work yourself. And I think that's fantastic because the business is somewhat yours and you build it. So there's something gratifying about when you think about that at the end of the day. And with smaller firms, you tend to sort of own part of the business anyway. So it's yours. I saw someone asked a question about what is a quantitative hedge fund. So there's traditional hedge funds, which is where there's a fund manager that actually makes the decisions and he has a team and they pick their stocks via whatever process they have in place. With a quant fund, it is actually done via some sort of proprietary trading system. It's all algorithms, it's systematic. There's a heavy AI or machine learning element attached to that. So you are continually creating a program and bettering it each time because it's pattern recognition basically that's actually being used to implement the strategy. I hope that makes sense. My background does not facilitate working for a quant fund. That's something that that's a bit of I'm a bit of an anomaly, because you tend to find there's specific degrees and specific backgrounds that's required for this type of role. A lot of the people I work with, they come with math and statistics and very heavy on, a particular type of scientific background. They understand math in a way that I probably never will. But what I am doing is I am trying to bridge that gap between people that speak math and people that speak regular language, i.e. the client. So it's basically breaking down in the simplest format what we're doing so that investors can understand what we're doing and obviously think about being in a partnership with us. So I am a slight anomaly to this particular role. You'll find that most people, even the salespeople within quant funds, are very heavy on the math and tech as well.
Yeah, and I can see also in the current, as we are in 2023, I think artificial intelligence is one of the most searched words on Google now. And I can see that there will be more and more need for actual human interaction and human ability to analyze what actually the machines are feeding us or offering to us. No,
Exactly.
that's really fascinating. Yes, the human role is not going to be redundant, even if the artificial intelligence takes even a more center stage. Now we have an interesting question, very, very practical. I like it. So I'm going to reverse this to the rest of the panel. When it comes to writing a cover letter, which still something that you need to do when you apply for a job. What are the top skills to highlight, putting in a cover letter, and then if you are successful through an interview, what are the top 3 things that you think should be there to make you stand out, to make you be picked, and to get your foot through the door for an interview? Alex, do you want to start?
Yeah, I think it's contextual, because I'm just thinking of people that I've hired in the past and why I selected them. I think number one, their resume would actually meet the I would say the minimum requirement plus. So what I would say is, don't just send the resume adapted to the role. There are some keywords that people would expect to see. I'm thinking if it's a product development role, for instance, they would ask people to have some sort of ability to work under pressure, relationship management, especially with various stakeholders, and being able to prioritize and provide specific examples of roles or situations where you had to demonstrate skills. And I think that's how you get your resume to stand out, something quite practical rather than just a title and a job title and a company next to it. Anyone else want
Seb,
to?
exactly. Do you want to add?
Yeah,
I'm sure you're now at the
sorry,
stage where you receive quite a lot of applications directly.
Kelly, you go for it. Sorry, I jumped in front of you.
It's okay. Some of the things I think we like to see, and I think it's important to highlight this. Sometimes your CV, it's going to be very comparable to a lot of the CVs coming in. So it's the soft skills that really stand out. I like to see really good communication skills. I like to see how, like, if there's a way you can, sort of go through time management, any kind of problem solving skills, critical thinking, because this is basically how your day is going to play out. Whilst you have like the hard skills on your CV to do the job, or you're going to learn on the job anyway, it's the soft skills that really, really help. Being able to get along with your colleagues, being able to communicate properly, being able to show time management skills, how you can adapt. I think those things sort of stand out for us. But obviously in the interview, you have to be able to sort of almost quantify this in some way or provide examples that show these things. Saying it is not really enough. And as a softer guilty pleasure, I do like seeing what people like to do outside of the office.
Absolutely.
I mean, I would add to what Alex and Kelly have said, and for me, what's really important, both in a cover letter but also in an interview, is to demonstrate how you've actually fed your interest in the industry and the firm you're applying for and the particular role that you're interested in. And I would say that everybody in an interview says how much they love, well, certainly when they're applying for a job at our firm, how much they love asset management. And very few people can answer the question, okay, so you like asset management, what have you actually done in order to further your understanding of the industry? And people kind of look blankly back at me. And if you really love something, you will go out of your way in order to feed that interest. It isn't work. It's something that you would enjoy doing. And so I think being able to demonstrate what you've read, the thinking that you have developed on a particular issue that you've been sort of reading around, the people you've met who have particularly inspired you and have challenged you to think in particular ways, the sorts of seminars that you've attended, such as this, in order to sort of further your understanding. That demonstrates that you actually have the motivation and the entrepreneurialism to actually go and get results yourself, and I think that is very valuable, and it's a rarity. So it's a way in which you can stand out as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that was said, it's very, very relevant. And if I might add also one thing, I completely agree with Kelly. Don't underestimate the importance of putting something about yourself. It's interesting to see what people are truly passionate about, and also don't be afraid to put jobs that you have done through university, because those jobs, like a waitressing job, a barista job, these sort of things teach you key people skills, the ability to prioritize, the ability to liaise with difficult customers, the ability to think on your feet. So don't be afraid to put jobs that they might not be relevant for a job in finance, but they are extremely relevant because demonstrate quality of leadership, team players, ability to liaise with customers and ultimately clients. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what was said. So thinking about what comes next. So the journey doesn't finish when you get a job. One point I wanted to discuss with the rest of you, it's the importance of mentorship. And it would be good to share with the audience if one of you had a mentor, still has a mentor, how they have approached this important tool, I would say, to help them develop their career. So maybe Seb, I see you. You're the first one coming up now, so maybe we'll start with you now.
Yeah, no, thanks, Alessandra. Happy to answer that. I would say the first thing is that for me, mentorship has been a hugely valuable thing in my life, and certainly in my professional career as well. And I would say that I struggle to think of a single person who has established relationships of mentorship that wouldn't say the same. So it's an incredibly valuable thing to pursue. So that's the kind of starting point. The other thing as well is that I have tried, and this isn't always possible, but it's something to strive for, to try and establish relationships with a variety of different people, because it's very helpful to get different viewpoints and to discuss challenges that you may be facing or opportunities that you may want to pursue, and to get different feedback on that. In terms of the range of different individuals. I think that it's really important to have somebody who you trust and can rely on within your own business. So to have an ambassador for you, and mentorship in that regard is very valuable. They understand your environment very well, so that's very beneficial, and they can also represent you when it comes to your own career progression. But equally, it's really important to have somebody who is and again, this is in an ideal world, but to have somebody who is a mentor outside of your organization, who is more removed and independent, and to whom you can perhaps be a little bit more candid with about some of the challenges that you're facing, whether that's about your boss or other people you work with, where you may not have been so willing to be open with somebody who works within the organization. And then the third thing, which I have found really valuable as well, is having mentors that actually sit outside of my industry altogether, because again, people's judgment can get quite clouded by the industry that they work in, and sometimes you can come across some really interesting solutions or some really interesting ideas or some really valuable support, which has been informed by completely different experience set, whether that's having worked in the hotel industry or whatever else that may be, and so getting a broad kind of input from different mentors is something to firstly really strive for, and secondly is something which has been really valuable. So I hope that helps, and we'll be interested to hear what the others would like to contribute as well.
Yeah, I think I may add, conscious of the audience, how maybe what a mentor is, just as a starting point, just come like one step back. From my perspective and the way I look at mentors, they tend to be someone that you use as a sounding board, or when you need guidance. When you're at work and you're having challenges, or you're trying to navigate a new job, or you're going through a change in your job, for instance. So I have had mentors, unstructured mentorship and structured mentorship. So unstructured, and that's what Seb mentioned, people who either within the industry or outside the industry, that you have good relationships with and that can help you. You can go to ask for help, and they will help you kind of look at the situation with an outside approach to it, and then be able to help you kind of find the right solutions. And you can also have a structured mentorship, and I've joined the City Hive scheme. If you're not familiar with that, it's managed by a company called City Hive, and they focus on creating like schemes for mentors and mentees to work together, and they've been amazing. I've done that for 3 years now, and I've met some amazing people, and now I'm doing it as a mentor for someone. And it's really good, especially if you don't have connections with the industry. It's really tricky if you don't know people, if you just started in the industry, to go to someone and say, by the way, do you want to be my mentor? It takes a little bit of self-confidence, and if you have it, it's fine, but if you don't and you need a bit of help, there are schemes out there for you to help. I think the CFA has one as well, the FCA as well. So yeah, just have a look, and then I'm sure you'll find the right one for you. And I think the second one I think is really important, is to distinguish between mentorship and sponsorship. And so mentorship, as I mentioned, is about guidance and having someone you can use as a sounding board. Sponsorship is pretty much very much within your company, and it's someone who's willing to advocate for you. And I think it's really key, especially if you're in a context where your line manager may not be a sponsor, and you need that help to kind of get exposed to interesting projects, to basically move forward, to grow within your job. If it's not, you need to actively and proactively find someone that will be able to help you get to where you are within the company. And it's way more difficult than finding a mentor, but then the results can be quite satisfying when it works. So just wanted to put that out there.
I think both Alex and Seb covered that pretty nicely, especially the difference with mentorships and sponsorships. Within finance, those two things are very, very important. The only thing I will add, a lot of the very big firms come with like a pre-packaged solution for mentorship. So it's a bit easier to navigate your way around that, especially within like HR departments and stuff. You can go to them and sort of say like, where do I start? With the smaller firms, what I have found, and it helps you as well as an individual, if you do an org chart just for yourself of who's sitting where, what their roles are, who's the team under that person, what do they all do in respect to the job that you're supposed to be doing. When you actually see the visual, it makes so much sense sometimes, because when you're trying to navigate your way around a firm and work out who can I go to for help, actually just doing a very simple thing like an org chart and how the pieces come together, how it all works, who's, you know, how the different departments sort of come together. I think that's a nice little way to start, because then it's easy to sort of work out, well, if you do this, how do I find the person that does this? And you'll actually see like the chain links, how you can actually navigate your way around a firm and work out who could be in a position to sort of help you in terms of mentorship and sponsorships. Depending on the path that, you know, obviously where your interest lies. If you decide, you know, I'm on this path, but I'm not really sure I like it, but I like what this group is doing, then you sort of find the right people within that team and sort of try to sort of navigate your way into that. That's probably the only thing I can add.
Yeah, that's all very good, sound, practical advice. Excellent. So I think we are using our time very efficiently, and I just want to make sure that we can cover aspects that are relevant for this audience. One part I also wanted to touch upon is challenges. I think anybody knows that great careers come with challenges. It would not be real life if it wasn't like that. So I think with a good dose of honesty and transparency, can we maybe all recall one episode when we had to face a challenge and how that was overcome? So Alex, I think you might want to start this one. You might have a good story for that.
Yeah, I think what I've learned in this industry is that failing is okay. It took me a little bit of time, but so I think my story was that I was in a very challenging role a few years ago, where we were quite tight in resourcing in the team, and we had a lot to do, and I was totally overwhelmed. But I was, you know, especially when it's one of your first big job, you really want to give your all to the job, and I was exhausted. But it took me about a year to realize that I needed to address that situation. So the lessons I've learned is, number one, failing is okay. Second, always prioritize your health, physical and mental. And number three, just do something. Talk to your network, talk to your mentors, talk to your supporting group, and then put things into action. So that, I think, kind of summarize a lot of the things that we've said. This is the reason why you need to have a strong support network. Yeah, and this is why also you need to be resilient, to understand yourself and know when to say stop and then move on, because there are many opportunities out there, and you just need to find them. Oh, we've lost you.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was the mic. I just moved it 1 second. Kelly, I think I would like to hear from you next, and then we'll let Seb providing a little bit of insight into his challenging experiences.
Challenges, they come every day. I think what I'll probably mention, which is a big one, and there's no right answer or wrong answer for it. Personalities themselves. I mean, the job I'm doing, I am facing multiple personalities with different demands, different needs, different requests, different stages in the cycle of where we're at in the relationship. So sort of facing some of these challenges, and it goes, I mean, you can have a really good 5 minutes with a client, you get in a second call and it's like the complete opposite. It's just managing yourself and sort of, you know, being able to take that step back, being able to take positive, I should say, not positive criticism, that's a terrible thing to say, being able to take criticism, but also not taking it personally. I know that's a really big one because, you know, we don't receive negative feedback very well as human beings. So being able to sort of sit back sometimes and listen to a client say, you know, we didn't like this, or we weren't happy with this, and sort of just trying to understand where they're coming from, understand what the next steps are going forward, how to repair the relationship, things like that. I mean, those are the sort of things we face, you know, on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. It never stops. It's not every time you can sort of put your hand up and tick the box and say, we've kept every single person in our supply chain happy, or that even we were happy with, you know, like brokers or different counterparties. There's always a multitude of people involved in getting everything moving correctly, and not everything is going to affect us positively. So I think in terms of challenges, people challenges are one of my biggest ones, and it's just being able to take that moment to look at the problem, to work out, okay, what do we need to do to get to the next step? Who needs to be involved? How do we get it moving? Just very simple. And most of it just boils down to communication, but it's also being able to remove yourself and personal emotions from the situation, I think. I hope that helps.
Very much. And Seb,
Yeah,
any
I would.
concluding remarks from you?
Yeah. I would add and sort of reiterate a couple of points which are important to me. I would say that as a general point, individuals are generally in the stickiest situations when firstly they feel alone, and they feel as though they're sort of carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. And the second situation, and these can happen concurrently, is when you feel you haven't behaved with integrity, and you feel as though you've actually done something which is wrong, as morally wrong as well as incorrect. And I would, you know, that is when people really get unstuck. And I think that in order to combat that, the first thing is to always operate with the highest level of integrity. And you know, if you're behaving with integrity, if you get things wrong, it is absolutely fine. If you get things wrong and you've also, you know, you haven't been behaving with integrity, that's when you know, that's when things get difficult. So always have the right mindset that you're trying to do the right thing. The second thing as well is that you should never feel alone with these things. And my prior boss always told me that you know, your professional life is never about the ta-da moments where, you know, you go away and you come back and you've got a finished product. And usually when you adopt that mindset, things don't go right. And you spend a lot of time working on something which you think is right, but actually it isn't ultimately what the client or your internal stakeholders want. And you know, successful careers are really carved, in my view, as an iterative process, which involves a lot of people, a lot of feedback, and that feels as though it's, you know, it's collaborative. So you know, it's really important to share your progress, to share your challenges with other people, because not only will it be a relief in terms of kind of sharing, you know, stresses with other people, but also you'll get really valuable feedback, and also you will know that the direction that you're going on is actually the right direction. So you won't have these instances where what you've produced is just radically different from what is expected from you. So acting with integrity and viewing your career as an iterative process, which requires a lot of feedback, I think will help reduce the instances of sort of panic and severe challenge and stress.
All very, very valuable insight. So I'm conscious about the time. I think these 50 minutes have gone very, very fast. We talk about challenges. Let's focus on the success. So I think it would be good if we could conclude on this note, on a high note. And if you could give me in 3 words, what has made you successful in your career as a key takeaway for our audience. So Seb,
I'll jump in on this one.
Or Kelly, as you want.
I think with me, because my background doesn't fully reflect that I'm in the right place doing the right job. The one thing that I have found that has guided me well throughout my entire career is being resourceful. So if someone asks for something, a manager asks for, a report of some kind, or you need to produce something and you have zero idea where to start, I think I was able to sort of take that step back and work out who to go to get it from. So if I don't know the answer, I will go away and find out, but I will never leave you without saying, I don't know, but let me go and find out. And I think coming back to that person and delivering something on time, that has been a consistent trait that I've managed to do. And I think it's so important, where you don't have to know the answers, you don't have to have a solution on the spot, but being able to go away and think about it and find out how to do it and then come back with the solution, or proposal of some kind where you've genuinely thought about it. That's been super helpful literally throughout my career. That's probably been my most useful trait. And obviously, there's the usual perseverance and like Seb was saying, even just now with the challenges. One of the things that I found, if you've done something wrong, put your hand straight up, straight away, and say, I don't understand this, or I don't know what's happened, or please help me. That I cannot underline that enough, how important it is when things get tough. I know we're talking about successes now, but to just put your hand up and say, I need help. You'll find that, there's a lot of people actually out there willing to help or share, in whatever your project is, to sort of move it forward, because everyone's actually cogged into the same machine, and everyone's moving in the same direction. But yes, I think being resourceful has been quite a useful one for me.
Yeah, success is the other side of challenge in some respects.
Exactly.
So a lot of things that you learn through challenge actually can make you a lot more successful. And focusing on all the things that you said about don't underestimate important things like your health, well-being, asking for help, are all things that are extraordinary learning experiences. And after you've gone through, you feel like you almost have a superpower. So Seb, you got the mic open, so you can go next.
I think I would reiterate what Kelly said. I think resourcefulness is absolutely paramount, but Kelly spoke about that well, so I'll turn to some others. I think one of the things that is takes some sort of adapting to in your professional career is that there is a much different timeline or timescale to your educational kind of lifetime. When you're in education, you usually see things in the, in terms of a year, or 5 years or 7 years or 8 years, as in terms of when you go up to the next school or university or whatever it may be. And then suddenly, when you turn to your career, you're faced with this 30 or 40 year time span, and it's quite daunting. And I think that one of the outcomes of having a time horizon which is so long is that inevitably there are going to be peaks and troughs, and there are going to be fantastic times. And I don't only mean this in relation to sort of what's going on in the financial markets, but there are going to be times when you're absolutely thriving in your career, and there are going to be times when actually you're not really getting much success and you're really struggling. Ultimately the direction of travel will inevitably be positive, but in order to to get to the end, you really have to demonstrate a lot of resilience. And so I think resilience is for me has been one of the traits which I would recommend and attribute my the success of my career to. The other thing is that you really need to be courageous. I think that you need to take risks and you need to step outside of your comfort zone, not only because it will you will be seen as as somebody who is resourceful and as somebody who is willing to help out on things that may be outside of your sort of core competency, but also it's a really important way to stretch your own abilities and character. So I think courage is a really valuable skill set when looking at your career. And I think the other thing as well, which ties to that, is open-mindedness, and it sort of speaks to the resourcefulness point as well. That when I started off my career, I had a very clear sense of what I wanted to do, and what I do today is completely different from that. I love what I do, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And the reason why I got to where I am today is because I was open-minded, and I was, I took opportunities that were presented to me purely out of curiosity. It's your career is a lot about trial and error and seeing, taking the path which resonates with you, but it does require being open-minded. So I think resilience, courage, and open-mindedness for me have been invaluable.
Excellent. I think Kelly wanted to say something. I think
No,
Kelly...
I didn't. You know what? I actually pressed the wrong thing. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay, I thought you raised your hand. Don't worry. Alex.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that's been said, especially by Seb around, taking risk and getting out of your comfort zone. Because at the end of the day, it's about, you can manage some of the risks. You can have a plan, talk to people, and then put things into action to actually get to where you want. And it's all about the journey, right? It's enjoying every moment of that journey until you get to where you want to be. So risk taking is definitely a big one for me. The other one is relationship. I think for me, I've worked in various countries and I've met a lot of people in the industry. And I think we do underestimate how you basically spend 8 hours a day at minimum at work, and you spend a lot of time with your colleagues. And so a lot of them may end up turning into your friends as well. And then what I've learned is talk about what you want to do, talk about your objectives, talk about your goals, your aspirations, and it will pay off. And that's what happened for me. Is like, I had my first job in industry thanks to friends, because I mentioned that I was looking for something different. And then when I was working in industry, I met other people who were working in product. I didn't know much about product, and I started learning about it. So it's really about spending the time to build a network and to also nurture that network. And that's, I think, sometimes that the bit that's a bit missing. I think a lot of people are going out to kind of build as big of a network as possible, but it's not about, it's about the quality of it. It's about having people around you that know you, understand you, and will support you in your career and also in your personal lives. And to finish with, I would say, for me, it's a growth mindset. It's very, I know it's very on trend, but it definitely is something that really helped. I'm very curious. I love understanding about things. I love knowing about things. I love languages. I love cultures. And that's why I think initially I was going to work in hotels around the world, and realized that actually I can get that level of diversity within the industry. So, I've worked on the floor with people from Spain, Italy, Germany, and I've met people from all over the world while working in this industry, and I've learned so much from these interactions. And I would very, very much encourage anyone who wants to join the industry to keep that kind of growth mindset in mind, because you learn so much by interacting with all these people. And genuinely, I think people in this industry are willing to share their knowledge with you. That would be my kind of top quality, is not engaging with people, learning about people, keeping that growth mindset on top of your to-do, I guess.
Wow, a lot to take away. So I think we cover quite a lot, and what I really enjoyed about this discussion is that I think you guys managed to be very honest, talk with your heart, and also giving away what are your best tips, talking about challenges. So thank you for your time, your honesty, and all the insight into your professional career. I think there is a lot of very valuable, very practical advice that has emerged, and I think probably Vicky can follow up on this in case people have questions, especially the association and organization mentioned by Alex, for people to follow. I think with this, my role finishes here, and I will hand it over to Vicky. But thank you very much, Alex, Kelly, and Seb.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Alessandra.
Thank you.
Vicky, could I just say something briefly, because I don't think we covered it at the beginning of the session, is that distribution, marketing, client servicing, client-related roles within asset management is something which is often overlooked by people who consider the industry. And I would say that it's a hugely rewarding part of and actually an integral part of the industry as well. And I think that if people are considering asset management as a career but don't necessarily view themselves as an investor, and don't want to be doing hardcore analysis and meeting with companies and modeling, and for instance don't have the same sort of risk appetite as a lot of investors do, this is a great avenue for you. So I would really recommend that you inquire further about this line of work.
Thank you so much, Seb, and thank you so much, Kelly and Alex and Alessandra, for being such an incredible moderator. You're right, it was an incredibly insightful session. You were also honest and so full of great tips and advice, and I really do think the whole point of these sessions is, like you just mentioned, Seb, is that we do focus on sort of investor roles, but they're not for everyone. And also a lot of the sort of internships we get rotate through some of the a lot of the other business functions to give, for exactly this reason, to give interns an oversight over different parts of the firm in case something does suit them better or appeals to their interests, their skills a lot more. So thank you. That's why we're running these sessions. I hope you've all enjoyed them. Thank you so much, our wonderful speakers. We really appreciate your time and your experience. And we're running another one of these sessions next week, the second part of this, where we're going to look at basically business operations, HR, finance, risk, compliance. So please join us for that. And in the meantime, you can find us on social media, Instagram. We are Girls Are Investors, and on Twitter, just Are Investors. And hopefully see you again soon. Hopefully see all our speakers again soon, because you were brilliant. So we'd love to have you back on. And have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.